Hey, what's going on there, guys? We are here at Top Deck Cards and Games. I'm joined by Greg, Zach, and Zach.
How's it going, everybody?
Hellos.
And Stump.
Yeah.
So all of us are here. So we're going to be cracking a pack of Theros, and we're going to talk about draft. So let's see what we have inside of here. So we have Nessian Asp. We have a Bronze Sable. Wow. Afara's Warden. We have Fellhide Minotaur. Voyage's End. Fade into Antiquity. That's awesome. The fact that that card's a common is ridiculous. Satyr Rambler. Observant Alseid. We have Scourge Mark. Coastline Chimera. Peak Eruption. Witch's Eye. Insatiable Harpy. Curse of the Swine as our rare. Definitely interesting. Swamp. And a Soldier Token. So what we're going to do here is we're going to talk about this draft, or this pack in terms of a draft, and talk about what the good picks are out of here. And we're going to have a process of elimination where we take cards out, and then we take a look at the pack from there. So, Greg, what is the biggest thing that stands out for you in this pack?
There's definitely a couple of things. My first choice would most likely actually be Curse of the Swine.
You think?
Absolutely. There's two, I guess, removal spells in this pack, which would be that one and that one.
Yeah.
Voyage's End would also be a good consideration in terms of a possible removal type card. But I like Curse of the Swine because it can deal with indestructible things. The off chance that someone pulled a god card in one of their packs, Curse of the Swine deals with it. But also the fact that it's flexible. The fact that you could hit multiple creatures with it, or you could use it to deal with one thing. It's good early in the game. It's good late in the game. And you know, the 2/2 board that it leaves behind shouldn't be too relevant as long as you time when you play the spell correctly as something you can deal with.
Yeah, absolutely. Personally, I'm not too huge on drafting blue out of this format. I'm probably much more comfortable drafting black, or at least going into some kind of black splash. And I think Insatiable Harpy is really awesome, being flying lifelink 2/2 for 4. Of course, you have that like diminished power and toughness in terms of the converted mana cost, but flying lifelink is awesome if you're able to throw any enchantments or anything on top of it. It's pretty good as well. Curse of the Swine definitely is really good. It's a high-end pick, but I just don't like drafting blue out of this format, so that's only where I would deviate with it probably. But we'll flip these two over.
Well, it's definitely a trickier color from what we've experienced with the format thus far.
So from here, notable things are like Voyage's End, Fade into Antiquity.
Nessian Asp.
Nessian Asp.
The card is awesome.
Big snake thing.
The card is absolutely yes. Hashtag big snake thing.
That's not the.
That's not the big snake thing.
But that's a big snake thing.
It's a hashtag
big snake thing, Junior.
Big snake junior.
Little snake thing.
Smaller big snake thing.
I would argue that Nessian Asp is probably one of the best commons in the set. At least in green, it's probably one of the best green commons for sure.
Yeah.
The 4/5 is pretty awesome for 5. But the fact that it has reach, and it's a 4/5 for reach. And the 5 toughness is relevant because a lot of the removal hits for 4. Lash to the Whip.
The red spell, Rage of Perforos. There we go.
So it dodges a lot of the removal that you're most likely to see. And the Monstrous is just sort of gravy. I mean, just by itself, even without the Monstrous, the card would probably be a solid pick for me.
Yeah.
But then we also have Fade into Antiquity, which in this set, it basically almost just functions as a removal because of the amount of enchantments, but also enchantment creatures that are in the set. And then also Voyage's End. It's probably one of the best blue commons in the set. It's probably somewhere up there. It's between Voyage's End and Griptide. I'm not sure which one's better yet at this point. But, for example, if someone's trying to go monstrous with this thing in response, you Voyage's End it. I mean, that's really where the power of this card comes into play, is using it cleverly like that.
Yeah, absolutely. So we'll flip the Asp over, and then we can flip over the Voyage's End and the Fade into Antiquity. So, Greg, you can flip that on over. And what else do we have? So Scourge Mark is a cantrip giving +1/+0. It's not really the best thing. The Warden taps down creatures with power 3 or less. Also not really the best. Alseid is Vigilance creature, 2/2 for 3, bestow 5.
I would probably be looking at one of these 3 right here. I'd probably be looking at the Fell-Eyed Minotaur, the Observant Alseid, or the Satyr Rambler. just because the rest of the pack does not impress me that much.
Yeah.
It's sort of like just figuring out which average cards that are left would probably be the best choice.
Yeah.
And I'm fine with the Minotaur. You know, he's okay. He's playable. They all say it's not the best enchantment creature. Vigilance is not that relevant of ability compared to something like First Strike or Reach. But it's still a bestow creature, which you could probably get some value off of. But I actually like the Satyr Rambler.
With Trample.
Yeah, more than I thought I would. Just because it has the baseline of Trample, anything you enchant onto it after that point is fine. You're not looking for an enchantment which is going to give him a separate ability. He already has the baseline Trample, so anything you put on him is going to be just fine. Then he actually turns into a little bit more of a surprising threat.
Especially when you go with the Ordeal cards as well, because the Ordeals stack the permanent +1/+1s. It gets bigger and bigger until the point wherever you sack the Ordeal, but still, like, at max, giving it +3/+3, still having that trample and only having committed 4 mana into this creature is pretty nice. Assuming you don't get 2 for Wonder, they don't kill it in between somewhere. It's still nice, I would definitely have to say. So, you mentioned the Rambler. You also mentioned the Minotaur and
The Alseid.
So now from here, one last pick. None of the cards are really that amazing.
Yeah, I mean, okay, the Sable, a 2/1 for 2, that has 0 abilities, just a vanilla 2/1 for 2. I don't really care about the fact that it's an artifact creature and be playing anything. I don't like the card. Plain simple.
Yeah.
Witch's Eye doesn't impress me that much. You know,
Tap to scry.
what you're paying for is not that great. It might be good with the red creature that gets +2/+0 in first, right?
Whatever you scry.
Whatever you scry.
Yeah.
There's an application for this card, but it's very limited, and it probably wouldn't be my great choice. Peak Eruption's starting to see some play in Standard as a way to deal with Chain to the Rocks. But in terms of limited, Peak Eruption, it's just sort of an expensive deal 3 damage to a player that has a mountain. It's so limited, it doesn't have the utility that it would in a format like Standard. So these wouldn't impress me that much. And Coastline Chimera, having played with him, doesn't impress me that much. My choice would boil down to a Pharaoh's Warden and Scourge Mark. The Warden is almost sort of like a Debtor's Pulpit Junior or Debtor's Pulpit Light. Which I'm all right with.
Yeah.
You know, outside of Divine Verdict and Vanquish the Foul, White doesn't really have too much removal going on, so I think that would be an acceptable choice. But also Scourge Mark. Scourge Mark is fine as just sort of a cantrip for black and just bumping stuff up. But we've seen some applications of its use in Draft and Sealed in decks that care about Black Devotion as a way to essentially just add 1 more black mana symbol onto the table for Devotion, but find the cards that care about Devotion faster too.
Yeah.
So it seems underwhelming, but I'm totally fine with picking Scourge Mark.
Yeah. I mean, adding Blank Devotion, as Stump can agree with.
Yeah.
Gray Merchant just gets to that point where it's just nuts whenever you're adding more and more Black Devotion. So, yeah, honestly, for me, like, it really depends. Like, if I've already gone black, I would just go with Scourge Mark. If I'm already white, it would just be the Warden.
Yeah, these 2 right here are probably the only acceptable choices.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. So now let's flip over everything and take a look at what we talked about. So we have Insatiable Heartbeat, the Messian Asp, we have Satyr Rambler, we have Curse of the Swine, and we have Observant Alcid. And Greg, on your side, you have?
We have Fade into Antiquity, Voyage's End, and later on, Minotaur.
Yeah. All right, so thank you guys for joining us for another draft discussion, and we will see you back here very, very soon.
Good luck with the drafts.